Hello, I am Mr. Beat, and it's April 27th, 2026. This is the first of hopefully many live streams in which I will be interviewing people running for Congress that I have endorsed because they have committed to uncapping the House. And I also share many of their other values as well. So it's not just uncapping the House, but according to Ballotpedia, there are approximately 2,500 people across the United States running for Congress for both the House and the Senate. And tonight we're going to speak with three of them from three different states, one from New Jersey, one from Indiana, and one from Nebraska. And you'll hear different issues that are important to them and their constituents. We'll talk, of course, about uncapping the House. Duh. Oh, speaking of which, here's my sign I've been taking now. Heck yeah. And we'll talk about their districts. And we'll go about an hour. Probably take some questions at the end as well. But just to let you know, we've been having a little bit of technical issues here this evening, but you know, we're just gonna push on through and we'll get through this. So I'm gonna bring everybody on the stage now. Here we go. All right. Oh man, one of them's missing. Oh. Well, let's start over in the upper right-hand corner. We'll start with Mark. Go ahead, Mark, and introduce yourself and let everyone know about your district and what you're running for in your district.
Sure. My name is Mark Cohen. I am running for the U.S. House as an independent in Nebraska's 3rd district. This is a huge district. It encompasses 80 counties and it borders 6 different states. It basically the entire state of Nebraska except for Omaha and the areas for Lincoln and the surrounding areas. So really large geographic district. So I'm very interested in how that relates to uncapping the House.
All right, excellent. And then hopefully John will pop back on here. But in the meantime, let's go to Jayden.
Yeah, I'm Jayden McCash. I'm in Indiana's 4th district. Our district is also very large. It takes almost 2.5 hours to travel the whole district from the south to the north, and we're in 2 time zones. And my campaign is very simple. We're anti-war. We want single-payer Medicare for all, and we're pro-union, and of course, uncapping the House. And I feel like these are issues that can be bipartisan. I feel like I'm a ruby red district, but I feel like that if we put our differences aside and look across party, that we can hopefully take over this district.
Absolutely. Oh, and just in time, we've got John. Go ahead, John.
Hi, thanks, Mr. Beat. I am John Hsu, running for Congress in New Jersey's 6th Congressional District. It encompasses Rutgers University and the Jersey Shore. And yeah, our election is June 2nd.
Yeah, so we haven't talked about political parties yet, but Mark is running as an independent. But Jayden and John both have primaries to win first. So let's talk about the differences there, because a lot of my viewers probably don't understand actually the process. So Mark, do you have to worry about primaries, or what is it looking like for you to get on the ballot in the general election?
I do not have to worry about primaries. For me to get on the ballot in a general election requires 2,000 valid signatures. I don't think that's going to be any problem for us.
So that's one advantage of running as an independent. But Jayden, you have a few opponents. Actually, one of your opponents, full disclosure, I've also endorsed, who is fully on board with uncapping the House. Drew, I'll be talking to him next week. But I love you guys both. In fact, you've got some really great candidates in your race, I got to say. So hopefully you all could team up around whoever ends up winning the primary. But maybe talk a little bit about your primary. Oops.
Yeah, so I'm an independent running in the Democratic primary. I thought about running it independently, just like John did. But my district I need about 8,000 signatures. So to get the 8,000 signatures and then get on the ballot for November, there's no way I can make a viable campaign doing that. I'm just a middle-class guy trying to make a difference in this world. And So we have 8 people in our primary, and right now there's one person dropped out, so we have 7 total. And we're definitely excited. Our primary is on May 5th. We're all grassroots candidates. We're all doing our best to gain a following. I feel like my campaign's a little different than the rest because I'm Hoosier first. I'm trying to use the America First message that the Republicans have used and use it to our advantage, and actually show what an America First or Hoosier First, whatever you actually put people, people over corporations.
Yeah, I love that message of not only America First, but Hoosier First. That's I bet you a lot of people that really rings true with.
Yeah.
John, are you there? Oh, John, we hear some kind of static. Maybe John, if you can log off and then log back in with that same link that I sent you. If you can hear me. Oh, there he's back. Okay, John, maybe talk a little bit about your what's going on here. Sounds like you're by the ocean. Yeah, let's see. I'll meet you again. And okay, John, I'm gonna go ahead and log off and then log back on. And so we'll see if it starts working. So we'll come back to you. But yeah, so we'll go back to Mark here. Why did you decide to take on this issue of uncapping the House? Why was it something that appealed to you in your campaign, Mark?
Well, as I said, this is a huge district. I mean, it would take probably, if you obeyed the speed limit, it'd probably take, and I know you live in Northeast Kansas, so you're familiar with the southeast corner of Nebraska. So it would probably take 11 or 12 hours to drive from the southeast to the northwest corner of this district. And all of these folks are represented by one representative. And the district, because it is so huge, it's agricultural across the way, but the issues are somewhat different. So in the western part of the district, people are more concerned with water. It's dry, high plains. People in the eastern part of the district also agricultural, but it's more farmland and less ranching. So, but one representative has to serve all these people the way it is right now. So that's a huge appeal to me. And there's other benefits that we can talk about, but that was probably the main thing.
Yeah, I can relate to that too. Like when it's funny, some of these other candidates are saying it's 3.5 hours across my district. Like for me, it's 7 hours to drive from one corner of the district to the other. But yeah, 11.5 hours. Geez.
Well, I mean, maybe you could do it in 8 or 9. I got the dog and who you've met, and
yeah.
So probably 11 hours.
Okay. And Jayden, why did uncapping the House, why was that an issue that appealed to you, and why did you decide to add it to your platform? Well, you're muted there. Here, I mean, you're muted, Jayden. Can you hear me, Jayden? You're muted. You got to unmute yourself. His camera's flying. All right, while we're waiting on Jayden, let's go to John is back with us. John, can you hear me? John, can you hear me? Okay. We're not getting any. What about Jayden? Let's go back to Jayden. Now he's frozen. Okay. This is just not working out with these two. John, can you hear me? I don't think he can hear me. All right, we're just gonna. I guess it's gonna be you and I because those two have not. Okay, it looks like he's trying to join again. Okay, he's back.
Yeah, now I can hear you. I couldn't hear you guys the last couple minutes. It was very
Okay.
weird. Just went
All right.
silent.
Well, and let's see if John can hear. John, can you hear us? Okay. So he cannot hear us. But Jayden, what made you decide to add Uncapping the House to your platform?
Yeah, I didn't realize that the Congress they capped the House back in 1929, and once I kind of learned that, thought it was very fascinating that if something hasn't changed in 100 years, we likely should try to change it. And with my district, being in 2 time zones, and then going from it's a 2.5 hours to travel from the south to the north, and in the way it's kind of gerrymandered over in our state, and I feel like it will give, if we uncap the House, it will give candidates like myself, independents, to potentially campaign in much easier to get on the ballot, get petitions, and also we have suburbs and farmers in our district. So then there's a lot of infighting within the district. So it's kind of hard to get anything done, and also find one representative for around 800,000 people. It's very tough. And when they capped it, it was around 200,000. So I think we should find a better number for that, and actually have better representation in a government that works for you.
So your district now represents, or there's 4 times as many constituents per rep as there was 100 years ago. That's insane. Yeah. How many people are in your district, Mark?
I would have to look. I think it's about 760,000 total.
Yeah, mine's 780,000. Let's see if John, can you hear us? I think he's still can't. I think what we'll do is I'm going to message him privately and see if, because you can't hear me. And we'll just keep it rolling. So, Mark, what other issues are important to you as you campaign and run for the House in Nebraska?
Well, there's a couple, and some of them are what you would expect, but there's 2 that I think are kind of unique. So I like to think abstractly. So one of the things that, and this is not going to win an election, but it's the fundamental premise is the language that we use. We tend to have black and white thinking, and we put labels on everything: liberal, conservative, blue, red, pro-choice, pro-life. And one of the reasons I decided to run was I don't think that's helpful to us. I think it dumbs us down. It sort of, and the 2-party system sort of encourages that, because the parties cater to extremists on both sides to raise money. And so I really want to improve the way that we use our language to talk intelligently to each other. That's one issue. The next issue for me is reclaiming our democracy and taking control of our government back, because I think we have to do that before we can fix any of these individual problems that people are concerned about, like affordability and healthcare. We've got to get control of our government back. It wasn't always like this, where corporate money was so dominant in politics that our votes really didn't matter much. And so those are the 2 issues I would go tackle first is our language and just taking control of our democracy, which includes campaign finance reform and Citizens United and all of that, because I don't think we can fix anything else until we do that.
I think the other candidates here tonight would agree with what you just said. Let's check on John real quick. Can you hear me, John? John, can you hear me? We were talking earlier just fine. Somebody said, why is John the only vertical one? That's one of the technical issues we were trying to figure out. Well, we'll go ahead and keep working on him. Jayden, what other issues are you prioritizing as you run for Congress?
Yeah, I say my top 2 issues are I'm anti-war of choice, and also funding wars of choice, or wars just in the Middle East and around the world with our tax dollars. Seeing the destruction of what our tax dollars can do to other infrastructure, other civilizations across the world makes me sick, and made me want to join this race. I feel like the time was now to do it, because just the military-industrial complex is getting worse. Our debt's getting higher. And inflation's through the roof. We're over $39 trillion in debt, and our return on investment as taxpayers is abysmal, in my opinion. I'm a young guy. I want to have our country be strong in the future, and the way we're doing, the path we're going down right now, I don't believe that's the case with funding all these wars of choices. And also, I want single payer Medicare for all. It's 2026. It's like we're outdated system using insurance. We need to remove the insurance, the middleman, and again, your employer should not dictate your health care. If I got fired today, I would have to scrap to find for my 3 kids, and that's not fair for them, and it should never be tied to your employer. And also, for-profit healthcare, I believe shouldn't be a thing. I think that you should get the quality care you deserve, regardless of how much money you make, because we're all human here, and we should treat each other like as best as we want to be treated.
I love that. Yeah. Try John again. Can you hear us?
I can.
Oh, what a pleasant surprise. All right. So, John, let's get us up to speed here. You are in a primary race first. And so tell us more about your primary and how that's going, how many opponents you have, what are the challenges there?
Okay, we have 2 opponents in the primary. It's June 2nd, as I said earlier. The incumbent's been in office for 38 years. He takes a lot of corporate money. 60% of his donations are corporate PAC money, and less than 1% of his donations are small donations. So, it's a tough race, but I would say that we are getting a great reception wherever we go. I think if we talked with everyone in the district, we would win. But that's the challenge, right? Because it's such a large district. It's really impossible for one person to talk to everyone. I'm doing my best. I canvass every day, and I've talked to thousands of people, and that's a fraction of the votes that we need. We have our volunteers, and we have our social media that's trying to make up the difference. So we're trying our best. We think there's a chance that we can get there, but we are facing a tough challenge there.
Well, you got somebody voting for you here. Lucille is voting for you, so that's cool in the 6th district.
Oh, thank you, Lucille.
We'll stick with you, John, now that we have you. Tell us more about your district. You told us that Rutgers and a few other areas. I know New Jersey is so different from, us Midwestern states here, where we're a little bit more spread out. Not as much in Indiana, but definitely Nebraska, more spread out. So how many people live in your district, and maybe tell us more about your district?
It's about 500,000, and we go from Rutgers to the Jersey Shore. We have 2 cities, New Brunswick and Perth Amboy. They were around in revolutionary times. Perth Amboy used to be the capital of East Jersey, and it has a lot of history there. All the big towns in between New Brunswick and Perth Amboy, they're the suburbs now. It's pretty packed in. I think people know New Jersey is the most densely populated state in the country. So people complain. Like sometimes I hear complaints about the size of our district, and I hear the other people, the folks here talk about the size of theirs, and it's only 40-50 minutes to get from one end of the district to the other. So it's too bad. And then we also have the Jersey Shore, which is actually a great area. It's nothing like the show, the reality show. It's nothing like that. It's very progressive areas. Well, it's mixed, right? There's Asbury Park, which is it's great. The music scene is amazing. Bruce Springsteen will play there. And it's just a really progressive area. And then there's less progressive areas too. So it's a very diverse Jersey Shore as well.
Now, you were saying that you're the incumbent who's been in office for a very long time. Seems to be more like a corporate Democrat. So maybe highlight the issues that are most important to you, John, that you're running on. Well,
I would say foreign affairs, foreign wars is a big one. There's a couple. I would say 3 big ones. Foreign affairs is one of them. War with Iran. We know the Democratic leadership has been failing us into keeping us out of war with Iran. I opposed all the military aid to Israel. So our congressperson, he voted for all of it. He said it's not a genocide. He's, he blamed the famine on Hamas, and yeah, so he's just distorting the facts, I would say, what's happening. Everyone on the ground, like 80-90% of the people I talk to are on my side on these issues. The second issue I would say is AI. I have a computer science background. I'm not a natural politician. I have a computer science background. I worked on projects with the Department of Education. So I've seen the dismantling of the federal government firsthand by DOGE. But I also know that AI is going to be a big issue. Palantir is being embedded in our federal government. Palantir was used in Gaza. It was used in Minnesota with ICE. So just 2 months ago, the incumbent, Frank Pallone, he said he did not know what Palantir was. So you're a congressperson and you're in the AI committee and you don't know what Palantir is. Like, that is very scary, I think, for everyone. Like, we want our representatives to know what's happening and to be curious and to want to address issues that are coming up. And yeah, so that's a big issue there. Last one, I would say, I actually could pick any number of issues. I'll say universal healthcare is a big one for me as well. And my opponent, he's the Energy Commerce Committee, so he's going to be a big blocker for Medicare for All. He held a committee for Medicare for All, but he stacked it with industry people against one nurse. And we saw how the power imbalance there. So even if he says he's for it, he's not really fighting for it, not talking about it right now, obviously, but he'll never be pushing for it. And we don't know if the vote comes down to him as the tiebreaker. We don't know if he'll vote for Medicare for All. So that's the situation we're in.
All right. Yeah. Let's look at more. You mentioned your background. I think that's important, actually, because the vast majority of the now 39 people I have endorsed running for Congress across the country who have all committed to uncapping the House, almost all of them have what I call ordinary jobs. No offense, Mark, because I think you're a lawyer, right?
I'm a semi-retired agricultural lawyer, and I teach karate in Ogallala.
Karate, that's really cool. But no, I mean, okay, for example, I've endorsed some teachers. There's a mechanic I endorse. There's a custodian. Wait, Jayden, what do you do? What's your line of work?
I'm a truck driver, union truck driver.
Truck driver. Oh, that's right. You were telling me how you're campaigning as you're delivering. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Teamsters.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so there's an architect that I just did an event for, a nurse that's running that I've endorsed. So I've noticed that it's a true outsider movement. These are people who, like you all, you did not grow up anticipating running for Congress one day that. This is not something you would be surprised how many people watch my channel who their whole life they wanted to be president. I'm I don't know about that, man. I don't think we need those type of people in Congress right now or in the White House. We need people that are true outsiders who don't want to do the job doing it. So let's talk a little bit more about that angle. Mark, if you could kind of speak again about how has your life experiences shaped how you made your decision to run for Congress? Because running for Congress is a pretty crazy thing to do the more you think about it. I mean, this is a crazy thing you guys are doing. Go ahead, Mark.
Sure. Yeah. So I came from a military family. Both my parents were Air Force officers. I went in the Air Force when I got out of law school, and you join the military to see the world. They sent me to the state next door. So I ended up in Nebraska and did that for a while. And I bought my home on the north side of the Lake McConaughey in Nebraska. So thinking that I was going to ease into semi-retirement. And, but I was just so, I really believed in what we're supposed to stand for, democracy, equality, the rule of law. And I don't think that we've been heading in that direction. And one of my karate pals took me aside and said, hey, you got to channel this energy into a more positive direction. And I started thinking about it. And just by sheer fate, and I don't know if you want to call it good luck or bad luck, but I'm a veteran. I've got an advanced degree in agricultural law in an agricultural district, and I'm an independent. And I believe I'm the only alternative to the incumbent who's been there for 20 years, and he's very clearly in the Trump camp.
And there's not even you don't think there will be a Democrat? There is going to be a Democrat also running in your race?
Well, there is a Democrat, and she does not have a primary challenger, but in this district, in a good year, the Democrat gets 20%, and so, and I have a lot of Democrats and people, even, people coming to me partly because they believe I'm more electable, partly because they believe I'm more of a fighter. So, but I also have to get these Reagan and McCain Republicans. Donald Trump Jr. said there is no Republican Party anymore, and I agree with that. And I need to also get some of these Reagan McCain Republicans who are looking for a place to go.
Absolutely. Jayden, maybe talk more about your background, why you decided to run. I know you're a younger guy, so you've got kids too. That's another consideration.
Yeah, I never really dreamed to run for Congress. I didn't really want to get into politics, but we are incumbent. He was in the state Congress for a very long time, and it seems like he's trying to get his son to take his seat eventually down the road, like for this federal seat. So I feel like he re-ran this go around, Jim Baird, and I feel like this is my best time to join the race because I believe this guy he just does whatever Trump or Mike Johnson wants, and that he's part of the status quo, and I want to shake up the status quo. If I get a chance to go to Washington, I want to make my own path. I want to listen to the people in District 4 and only District 4, and not lobbyists or super PACs or PACs. And I feel like that with so much money in politics, seems like a really tall task to get, to where I'm at now. But once I reached out to my county chair and consider running independent, but then I reached out to my county chair because if I can get on a ballot in the primary, I feel like I have the best chance to, once people hear my message, that they want to maybe join our side this time, and then try to make a good movement. We're historically a plus 35 district, and then the Libertarians usually get about 5% in our district, but they're not running one this year, so it could be 35 to 38% that we're up against, and I feel like that my campaign can get about 20% of the Republicans to join us this time.
Wow, that's quite a swing. I was actually going to ask that. That's
yeah.
So both of you are in very red districts.
Yeah, it's anywhere between 35 to even 40 sometimes. But now there's not a Libertarian in the way, so it's going to be closer to that 38 mark. So a candidate from our district needs to get about 20% of the typical Republican voters to support us this time. And since I'm an independent, that's on the Democratic primary, that's been the easiest sell so far with the Republicans because they just don't want to pick up the Democratic ballot. I'm kind of trying to convince them to. I disagree with how we're a two-party system and that all the infighting on minimal stuff. And if we look up and it's the billionaires that are controlling everything and we outnumber them when we work together.
Well put. I love that. Sounds like James Tellerico type of talk there. Okay. We lost John again. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm going to probably have him log off again, I guess. John, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you. We just can't see you.
Okay, I can try logging back on.
Okay, we'll try that one. Okay, well, we'll just keep it rolling here. We do have a super chat I wanted to get from Michael, longtime supporter of my channel. I always appreciate him. Says, my congressman won my district by 14% and is expected to cruise in 26, likely opposed to uncapping. How do I get him to listen? Keep up the good work. Yeah, I think the main thing that I think everyone needs to know anytime I bring up uncapping the House, I know it's a brand new issue for most people. So first of all, they haven't really heard of it. If you start to explain it, their first knee-jerk reaction typically is, you want more politicians in there, really? Or they might say, oh, that's going to cost a fortune. You know, we're already spending so much money What about the deficit? What about the debt? All of a sudden, they care about that. So yeah, my first, I guess, rebuttal to their first point is the reason why politicians are not very good right now in BC is because there's so few of them. If we had more of them, there would be less opportunities for them to be bribed. There would be less corruption. There would be less, frankly, there'd be less opportunities for special interests and billionaires to control them. And the second point is, if you do the math, it's not really that much money if you were to add a few hundred members to the House. It's like 0.001% of the federal budget if you were to add 100 members to the House each year. That's including benefits. So those arguments are kind of ridiculous. Here's the harsh truth. I'm having better luck with outsiders running for Congress than people who are in Congress. And the reason why that is, if you're in the House right now, you simply do not have the incentive to support something that would reduce your own power. It just doesn't make sense. I get it. Like, if I was in the House, I would not vote to weaken my own power. And so it really is exceptional. It's an anomaly, but it's pretty impressive when you have folks like Sean Casten, who not only do they support uncapping the House, they've already done the work and sponsored a bill to uncap the House. It's already in existence. I encourage everyone to check it out. And that's what I usually reference people I've endorsed. If you want something more specific, it lays it all out. But yeah, I mean, the first issue we have is like, people just haven't heard about this. They haven't heard about uncapping the House. So I don't want to make this all about uncapping the House, because now that we got John back, let's go ahead and go. So John, let's talk about. Can you hear me, John?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. And you're like the same. Okay, I don't want to jinx it. Okay, so let's see. Maybe I can't remember where we left off here with you, but as far as what are you predicting? What are you predicting is going to happen in your race there in New Jersey 6th?
So we ID'd a lot of supporters. Like I said, I canvass every day. Like today, just I returned to a neighborhood that I canvassed previously. Had a friend there that put a lawn sign down. I talked to 3 or 4 houses on that street. They wanted lawn signs. They saw that my friend had put the lawn sign down. They're very supportive. One person I had to return because I had to ask them if they wanted a lawn sign. The first time they told me, I was just something different. I think she was just being nice. When I returned, she's like, "Oh, I saw your position on Palestine. I saw you're a Bernie Sanders delegate. All these things." I was like, "Oh, you didn't say that earlier." And, but she was just kind of holding back. But I'm just finding a lot of people are doing their own research and finding out about me and what I stand for. And that's very encouraging. And I think people are a little bit sick of the status quo. They've seen the Democratic leadership fail them over and over again. So I think we're in a time where people are open to something different, and they're going out on their own to try to find out more.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was going to bring it up. The fact that we are living in populist times, and as somebody who teaches history and reads a lot of history, I know that I compare the current era we live in to the 1960s or the progressive era, or these small windows throughout American history where you actually have true opportunities for a bunch of reforms. I think about, as long as I've been alive, there haven't really been that many big reforms, change for the better. And all of you have like a list of, if you go to your websites, by the way, check out their websites in the description of this video. You'll see on their issues pages, at least 15, maybe 20, 25 different issues where they specifically say what they would change, how they would change it. I mean, this is not typical if you look at most of history. Usually you have politicians that run on platitudes and they're very vague, general, but you guys have specific policies. So maybe let's talk more about other examples of issues we haven't brought up yet that Because I know like right to repair and Mark in Nebraska, that's another issue that people are pretty passionate about. Data centers, people have some pretty strong, and these are bipartisan issues. Term limits, gerrymandering. There's just a bunch of things we could talk. So let's bring up some more issues that are kind of along the same theme as Uncapping the House. We'll start with Mark.
Well, the theme of Uncapping the House, I think, ties back in with what I mentioned about taking back control of our democracy. So Citizens United is a huge problem. I don't think we're going to get a constitutional amendment to fix it. So you're either going to have to get a Supreme Court decision that changes it with a new Supreme Court. But there's things that can be done on the state level to weaken its impact. States are now requiring disclosures so that people can't hide behind shell entities, and voters will know who's really paying the money. So there's things that can be done on a state level to sort of weaken Citizens United. So that's one thing. I think we really need to strengthen the laws that govern our democracy. I hear, the laws that we play under now, there was no internet when these laws were enacted. And now we have Russian interference and bots. I just think that we just totally need to revamp some of these things. We need much stricter enforcement. Very disappointed that this administration has essentially turned a blind eye to Russian interference in our elections, and this is directly contrary to the Republican Party under Ronald Reagan, which stood up to the Soviets. And so, I think there's a lot of things that we can do to strengthen our democracy. Uncapping the House is one. I think that for electronic voting machines, there should be a paper trail or some paper verification is another thing I would like, because people don't even have faith in our elections anymore. They don't trust the integrity of the system. So there's a whole cluster of issues pertaining to our democracy that I think we need to fix. And you already mentioned, insider trading and term limits. Those are no-brainers for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Stock trading for sitting members of Congress, I think, is something that appeals to pretty much every American. Jayden, go ahead. And any other issues that you think that we need to be bringing up that you're noticing voters are bringing up?
Yeah, I think we need to have worker protections since with AI and data centers, there's going to be a big job loss for a lot of the economy, and we need to support employees that want to unionize. If you want to start up a union in your job, you get fired. I feel like the workers need to be protected in that. If the conditions align to where they probably want a union, maybe we should look at the corporations and their working conditions and their wages. Worker productivity is really high. We're producing way more than we are getting paid. There's been a big dip since 1979. I made a post about that. We're producing like around 3 times more than we're making per dollar, and also being tied to inflation as well. So we're overworked. We're not bringing as much home per dollar as we used to, and we're wondering why this generation has struggling either buying houses or starting families, but they are also living paycheck to paycheck, unlike the older generations did.
Absolutely. John, other issues that you think that voters are bringing up that you think needs to be brought up more?
Well, I think we're talking about affordability a lot, but we're not talking about the causes of it. I would say private equity is a big cause of it. In the housing market, private equity is a big culprit. What happens is, developers, sometimes they'll develop all these houses. They will sell it in bulk to private equity. That was their plan. They would keep the rent prices really high, and that way they're manipulating the market that way. A lot of small home builders, they were knocked out of the market during the loan crisis in the 1980s, and unfortunately, it's just a couple of big corporations controlling the developer market. So as always, when corporations have the monopoly power, they take advantage of that, squeeze people. And those are some of the reasons. There's other methods they do to manipulate the market. But right now, private equity and corporations, they're squeezing us for every penny. Obviously, I'm very concerned about Palantir. AI surveillance is one of the big issues with AI. Very, very concerned about that. And also, kind of a niche issue is cars. The cars are spying on you. They'll be able to spy on you in 2027. So I oppose that. I think that's we're losing our liberties. We're losing our privacy. With the internet age, I know it's really hard not to have that, but we still need to preserve as much as we can, I think. One thing maybe I'd like to ask Jayden, right?
Yes.
I personally oppose glyphosate. I don't know if this is an issue around where you are, but I think that's poisoning our food system, and not just glyphosate, like other chemicals and food colorings.
Yeah, and also the regulations upon that as well. It's a huge issue, especially in water and food. Also with the data centers coming in, the lack of regulations with them draining your energy and also poisoning some water too.
Okay.
I'm hearing similar concerns from other candidates. When I was up in Iowa a couple weeks ago, everybody was bringing up that. Let's go through.
Can I just tag on that? It's not the first. It's not the first time that America has been short-sighted. When DDT was invented as an insecticide in the 1940s, whoever invented it got the Nobel Prize, and then like 30 years later, the EPA banned it. So we tend to not look too far down the future and really think about all the. And maybe we don't know, but we're short-sighted. We sacrifice long-term health for short-term profits, and we seem to have to keep relearning that lesson.
So I think a root of a lot of the problems when we talk about affordability, we talk about a lowering standard of living for Americans compared to the previous generation, despite technology improving in many ways. Is the extreme wealth inequality we have in the United States. We've never had wealth inequality this bad, other than perhaps the Gilded Age. And many historians say we are currently living in the second Gilded Age. So what would, I want you, the three of you, to think about what are the best ways to tackle that issue? Because we know that countries that have extreme wealth inequality, it's not all gravy for them. It's not good. All right, we'll start with Mark. What do you think is the best solution to that?
Well, one of the things that I'm really proud of is, to my knowledge at least, I'm the only candidate that's openly saying we need to go back to something closer to the tax system we had that had bipartisan support under Eisenhower with really high marginal tax rates. That is a big factor in the wealth inequality that neither party has the Trump party doesn't want it, and Democrats don't have the courage to push for it. If we went back to that kind of a tax structure, I've seen estimates that we could generate anywhere between half a trillion and $2 trillion in tax revenue. That would fund a lot of programs that have been cut. That's the first thing that comes to mind, is reforming our tax structure. The corporate tax code. Corporations are now allowed to deduct wages that they pay to overseas workers, and I think if overseas workers are providing goods and services to Americans, corporations should not be allowed to deduct those wages. So there's things that we can do to kind of keep jobs here and try to redistribute the wealth. But the trend has been really bad. And I think in the 50s, the ratio of CEO pay to worker pay was something like 20-1. And now I've seen figures like 6,000-1 in some cases. And you can't have one nation under God when there's that kind of wealth discrepancy. It's not really one nation. It's them and us. So.
Well put there. Jayden, what about you? What's the best solutions to tackle wealth inequality?
Yeah, I think it's going after the billionaires, and a lot of them, they report that they're making less than they are, so they can with all the different loopholes. But if we use those loopholes, we'll be in jail, and we're not held to the same standard as them. So they're playing in a different game. They're making the rules. They're paying for the rules, putting money into our politics. So if we can go after them, have them pay their fair share, they'll still be very rich. It'll be more rich, a lot richer than all of us. But if we can actually, go back to our roots and figure out that we're getting taxed a lot already. If we redistribute our tax fund and not spend $1 trillion in our military budget for this past year, and then maybe 1.5 next year trillion, we can do a lot of things with our money that we already have, and that's without taxing or going after the billionaires. So if we look outside the box of the military industrial complex and we actually, focus on our people and be, America first, like this Trump administration said they are, then we can actually, make a positive difference. Also, they asked for $200 billion to, fund the war in Iran. That's extra over the $1 trillion they already got. To pay off all the medical bills, it's only about $220 billion. So I'd rather see our tax dollars go to that, and that would be, people that are sick, that are in medical debt, about to go bankrupt. They can actually have, have a time to heal, and I don't have to worry about their bills. And again, if we're the greatest country in the world, I think we should, want to focus on our people.
The most common form of debt in the United States is medical debt. It's really sad. John, what about you with solutions for wealth inequality?
Well, I would abolish the Bush tax cuts and also the Trump tax cuts. I think those are important. I think a couple of years ago, the Panama Papers came out, and they were detailing how rich people avoid taxes. We need to obviously close those loopholes. I know one example that rich people do is they take, or the executives, they take compensation in stocks and they borrow against those stocks, so they are not paying any taxes against that. And I think we have to figure out how to stop that. And I would ban stock buybacks from corporations, because that's another way that these executives get so much compensation from stocks. And Warren Buffett said it himself. Like, he said his secretary was paying a higher tax rate than he was. So there's all these loopholes. There's a lot of ways to handle that. I'm interested in the Ways and Means Committee in Congress, but I might not get there right away. But I think overhauling the tax structure would be really good. And like I said earlier about the private equity, those are they're big issues. Corporations are big issues. I believe in a strong FTC. I really liked Lena Khan when she was under Biden, holding corporations accountable, giving them fines for the ways they try to rip customers off. There's always, we need to break up some of the big corporations as well, because they're really squeezing us. So we need a strong FTC and well-funded and well-staffed, so that they can handle and manage like the complexity of the economy and the corporations we have in the country right now.
Right on. If you're just joining us, I have three folks who are running for the U.S. House of Representatives. Mark Cohen in the 3rd District of Nebraska, and Jayden McCash of the 4th District of Indiana, and John Hsu of the 6th District of New Jersey. If you want to find out more information about these candidates, their websites are in the description of this video. I've endorsed all three because they have awesome platforms, but also they have all committed to uncapping the House. Can I just get a thumbs up if the three of you, support making Election Day a federal holiday? See, you guys, I knew it. Okay, and they didn't know I was going to ask that.
And make it a paid federal holiday too, like that your employer has to pay you for it.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right. So we have about 10 minutes left. I'm kind of keeping an eye on the chat for questions, see what people are thinking about. We do have a lot of folks talking about student loan forgiveness, universal health care of some form. Let's talk about education as far as childcare. I know that as a parent, it was really rough when we had to pay childcare for our daughters. So Mark, a lot of people aren't having kids anymore for that reason. It's just too dang expensive to have kids. What's your solution to try to make it cheaper so we can have a family?
Well, part of that goes back to the redistribution of wealth and the tax code. If you go back to the tax structure we had under Eisenhower, that was a time when most families were single breadwinner families, and they could afford a house and a vehicle. And so I keep going back to that because I think that is fundamental. We can do other things, more specific as far as tax credits and things and deductions and things like that. But the bigger issue is the redistribution of wealth through the tax code. The housing affordability is a huge issue, and probably not just in Nebraska, but everywhere. And, this administration's solution to that was a 50-year mortgage. And younger people don't want to be in debt for 50 years. And so I understand their decision to not want to have children. It's so ironic that the people who are worried, the people who think women should stay home and have babies and are worried that we're not having enough children, those are the same people who are creating the situation where people don't want to have children. So, it just boggles my mind. You should, if you want people to have children, give them an incentive to have children. So,
yeah.
All right, Jayden.
Yeah, I'm a young father. I have 2-year-old twins, a boy and a girl, and then a 6-month boy. And we're very fortunate enough. My wife's able to stay at home as I work full time. But our situation is unique compared to a lot of other people in this country. And I feel like that if we have affordable childcare, if both parents want to work, you make it universal, a safe place your kid can be used at. And also increase the child tax credit for for stay-at-home parents, male or female, and incentivize them to raise their children and give them a tax break. If we give tax breaks to any other corporations or billionaires like in the Big Beautiful Bill, we should really work for the working class families who build this country.
Okay, yeah, John.
I thought it was really funny when Trump said, "Oh, we cannot do childcare because we have to pay for the Iran war." I think that was ridiculous. So I support universal childcare. I support universal pre-K. I don't know how that looks right now. We have to do the work to figure out the best solutions for that, whether it's federally controlled or it's federal state partnerships. We have to figure that out. But I do believe it's possible. Other countries, France has it. Other countries have it, and it's really to support their workforce, to support their families, and to allow people, in our age, to allow both partners to work. If it's possible to support a family with just one income, I would love to see that. A lot of the policies that we've talked about today, I think would support that. So perhaps we can get to that one day, but that would require a lot of what we talked about today to pass. So, I think it's possible for us to have a better life, more affordability, more support for our families. It's definitely possible. If we can pay for war, we can pay to take care of our people.
I like it. We'll do another thumbs up for this if you are for it. How about new investigations into the Epstein files? Thumbs up if you're for that. Okay, see this. I'm throwing you softballs here, but I'm just telling. It seems to me that there really is a clear divide in our country right now. It seems to be the elites, the establishment, the billionaires, whatever the heck you want to call them. I call them the owners, the ones who own all the assets, the asset hoarders. And then there's everybody else, the renters, or just, the workers, the working class. I mean, we have all these different labels, but I think we all know this is really a divide along class lines. And for many years, the culture wars have really distracted us. So maybe speak on that. Like, Mark, how are you handling social issues when, say, a Republican comes up to you and they want to talk about a transgender person? How are you handling that conversation?
I'll tell you exactly how I'm doing that. A couple things. The first thing I'm doing is saying that I believe Nebraskans are smarter than that. That's why I chose my tagline as "We're smarter than they think." And I use a karate analogy for this. So if I stand up a little bit here and I get my front hand in your face and I start shouting about pronouns and transgender and blah, blah, blah. Well, you're up here. I'm getting ready to take my 220-pound back leg and stick it into your guts on a $1 trillion cut from Medicaid and tax cuts for billionaires. And so I think people are wising up. They weren't buying what the Democrats were selling. They wanted change. They got change. It's not the change that they wanted, but the people in Nebraska, they've seen their agricultural markets crippled. are destroyed. Fertilizer's gone up, diesel's gone up. The cost of healthcare has doubled. Clinics and hospitals are closing or downgrading. If you just focus on what really matters to them, the vast majority of them are not that worried about bathrooms and pronouns and stuff. They're just people who want to feed their families and every now and then enjoy themselves a little bit. And I think they're much smarter than people think, and the press assumes, and smarter than politicians assume. And if you treat them as being smarter than that, then they'll rise to the level that you expect them to think at.
Jayden, are you finding when you talk to voters, are they wanting to talk about these culture or issues?
They definitely get brought up every once in a while, and I just feel like it's what the Epstein class wants us to argue about, and the billionaires. It makes them not want to, they stay rooted in their one side, Democrat or Republican, and these social issues, again, like transit sports, the restroom. It's such a small percentage problem. But the real problem is if we look up at the billionaires that are controlling this and wanting us to fight amongst each other to get nothing done. So then you despise your neighbor because they have one political affiliation. And if we actually look across party lines, and that we are all human here, and let's do the best for our civilians and also best for our country too, and actually invest into it instead of getting exploited for little tiny issues.
Sure. John, you want to speak about your experience with culture and social issues?
Sure. I can only recall one time knocking on doors that this issue came up, and I think it was a household with one Republican and like 3 or 4 Democrats. Only the father was the Republican, and he brought it up. But it really hasn't come up in the campaign. The only times I would say it has come up is there was an issue where someone shouted some slurs at a donut shop owner, pulled down his flag, and I went out there to support him, and just that kind of thing. We don't find that acceptable. But since our campaign just focuses on these really, I would say kitchen table issues, that it hasn't come up too much actually at this point.
Yeah, I do want to bring up immigration. Obviously, I have an ICE out thing back here. I haven't been a big fan of ICE. I think that what they've been doing in American cities has frankly been disturbing. I think many of them have acted like terrorists. They've killed American citizens. They've deported American citizens. They are terrorizing the streets. So I'm curious how you're handling that issue, because I think it's something a lot of people are still upset about. Mark, what is your policy with immigration?
Well, first of all, we fought a world war to prevent ourselves from living in a country where masked men could come around and ask you to produce your papers. But immigration has been with us since the founding of the country. I remember 40 years ago, Ronald Reagan signed immigration reform, and just 2 years ago, we had a bipartisan border control bill, and then candidate Trump killed that, not because he wanted to solve problems, but because he wanted to use immigrants as a scapegoat for political advantage. I would do 3 things. I would return ICE funding to the levels it was at when Biden left office. We went 250 some years without a secret police force, and we were fine. I don't think we need it. Second thing I would do is I would codify the right to film law enforcement officials as long as you're not interfering with their operations. And third thing I would do is codify the right to or require that law enforcement agents not hide their identities except in specified circumstances, such as undercover operations or with a court order. Those 3 things are the most immediate things that I think we need to do on that issue.
Seems reasonable to me. All right. What about you, Jayden? Immigration policy.
Yeah, with ICE, not many people know this, but we fund them at about the rate of the 15th military in the whole world. So we're funding 2 militaries pretty much, but one's on our streets and our neighborhoods going after civilians that have killed our American citizens. And they're, again, racial profiling citizens, having people show their papers. I think it's an overreach of power. It's almost too far gone to try to rein it in. I almost feel like we need to abolish them and actually focus on everyone that's here, have a strong border with a big door, and have a pathway to citizenship for the people that are trying to live the American dream. We're all a family of immigrants here, and if you want to go after people and their heritage, where does it stop? It could go after you, all of us, wherever they draw the line, and whoever's in control draws the line. And these guys, everyone that's here, they want to live the American dream. The American dream's dying, in my opinion, so I feel like we need to revive it and really invest into America and actually show that we're the powerhouse that we are, even though it's slipping and our empire's dying.
All right, John.
Yeah, I think ICE has been an overreach of government. We've had people with valid work papers, get taken away and detained for a while. We had one person who, she was good, but she went to a Palestine protest in New York City, in Columbia, and they took her for a whole year and put her in jail in Texas for a whole year. And and a lot of people in my district who, we have a very diverse district, so a lot of Muslims here. A lot of people in my district, one person in particular worked on her legal team and was keeping me updated on what's happening. So I think it's a big overreach. A lot of, even progressives, burning people. When I say I support abolishing ICE, they some occasionally they'll take a step back, and I explain, well, ICE was only created in 2003. It was a reaction to the 9/11, and people were even warning back then, just like with the Patriot Act, they're warning that this would result in an overreach of the government. So it's important for people to understand that. We had the INS before that. And lastly, I'll just say is, I think it's important to look at the root causes of immigration. I think, at a certain period, most of the immigration was coming from Venezuela, and a couple years ago, and that was because of the U.S. sanctions and U.S. attempt to overthrow their government and to destabilize their government. So, U.S. has to take a look at itself with its foreign policy and how that causes immigration patterns.
If you don't mind, I think we're going to go a few more minutes. Is that okay with y'all? Okay. Because I know I said originally about an hour, but I know we had some technical problems, and I don't want to jinx it again because it's been going great with the technical side. We'll do another thumbs up here. Somebody asked about where was it? Would you guys vote to expand the Supreme Court of the United States? Thumbs up if you would. Okay, so finally some difference of opinion here. About time. All right, Jayden, why not?
If I feel like if we expand the Supreme Court, what level we expand it to? I feel like that we need to get term limits for Supreme Court justice, and I'd even argue that we could potentially, either vote for the Supreme Court justice instead of having the president anoint them. Also, term limits for that position would be great, because then it gives, if 3 pass away or step down, it gives the president at the time a lot of power and a lot of swing in the Supreme Court. I'm not completely against expanding it, but with all the problems we have right now, to actually get it done, it'll be kind of tough. But I think term limits could be a huge thing to really square out and make everything a lot better. Because then at least it would be a revolving door at some point.
Yeah, Mark, you want to elaborate on your position on this?
Well, it's one where it's actually one of those issues where my position has changed. For many years I was opposed to it on the theory that what goes around comes around, and if one party starts packing the court to get a certain result, sooner or later the other party is going to get control and they're going to do the same thing. But what changed my mind is Citizens United. I think that's an existential threat to democracy. In my martial arts class, I teach when you have multiple attackers, you go after the closest threat first. And right now, I think Citizens United is the closest threat to killing our democracy. And if that means we got to expand the Supreme Court to get rid of that, then I'm willing to do that, and we'll deal with the long-term implications of it later.
All right, yeah. John, you want to elaborate on that too?
Sure. Well, I always liked the story. I don't know how true it is. I like that FDR, threatened to pack the courts if Congress didn't allow his policies to go through. I think the people are with us in this case. We've seen Republicans delay appointments, things like that. So I think we do whatever we can to fight for our side. If we are doing it for the right reasons and we have the good results, I think the people will be with us. So yeah, but that's about where I am with that.
Sure. Thanks for elaborating. I have one final question, and then after we go through that question, then we'll just have you have closing statements, like closing appeals, because there is probably at least a few people watching, listening right now, or in the future, because this will be up, who are potential voters in the primaries coming up for y'all. So my first question, or my last question, is I've noticed a pattern, like when I've talked to what's now like 60 people I've talked to running for Congress across the country, 60 of the apparently 2,500 people running for Congress across the country this year. Can you believe it? But I've noticed that everybody who seems to be on board with Uncapping the House also says they have issues not just with, obviously, the Republican Party that's currently in power. They have issues with the Democrats, too, for many years. And so my question is, I think it's easier for many of my viewers to understand the issues with the Republican Party right now because, they can see that they're slipping us toward authoritarianism. But maybe they're not saying, well, what's wrong with the Democratic Party? And so what would you say are the biggest obstacles with the Democratic Party in this and with these upcoming midterms? We'll start with Mark again.
Well, the Democratic Party may benefit from some of the chaos and whatnot. I mean, we've seen them switch some seats, but I think the larger problem for Democrats is people don't see them as an agent for real change, and they don't see the two-party system as an agent for real change. I mean, and I think that's when I've been out talking to people across Nebraska since I started this, and there's a lot of people who voted for Trump that really don't like him. They don't think he's a good person. They just want to change from the typical two-party system. They know the Democrats take corporate money too, and they thought he would bring about change. They really wanted to shake things up, and they did, just not in the way that they wanted to. And the other thing with the Democratic Party is it has got to be the most inept political party to ever exist. They go around putting memes on the internet showing that, the percentage of college-educated people who vote the Democratic is higher. And so what What message does that send to the people who don't have college degrees? It sends a message: you're not welcome here. We're smarter than you. It's arrogant. And I think that turned a lot of people off. So the Democratic Party may gain some short-term gains because of the cycle, but I'm skeptical that in the long term it's going to do much.
Okay. Jayden?
Yeah, I think the Democratic Party needs to look in the mirror and see that they're part of the problem too. Again, the Trump administration and the Republicans have their issues, but the Democrats, the Democratic Party elite and establishment are why we're here in this position. They take corporate money, they take AIPAC money, they support genocide, they allowed a genocide to unfold under the Biden regime. And again, Harris didn't just distinguish herself enough, and she also took AIPAC money as well. So they're all getting paid by the same people regardless of party. And that's why I think outsider candidates are the only way to go, or independents, anyone that's not tied to any of this mess. And that if the Democratic Party wants to have a bright future, they need to look at the people and see why they actually get elected, and go back to the working class, and used to be the bread and butter of the Democratic Party, but instead they want to go after the Trump.
You all are getting some love from the comments. That's nice. All right, John?
Yeah, I think the Democratic Party leadership has failed us repeatedly. I think losing to Trump was a failure because they would not recognize what was happening in Gaza. A lot of polling said that was the number one reason for a lot of people of that they did not vote in the election, even though they voted for Biden in the previous election. We saw that, and I think sometimes people are not willing to call out the leadership. So the delay in vote for the war powers resolution, that was done by Democrats. Democratic leader, it couldn't get out of committee. And if you're Hakeem Jeffries, you should be able to use your power to say, oh, we're voting for this. I don't care what you say. You should be able to get the stragglers, the last couple of people to vote the right way. But maybe that was planned. Maybe it was the rotating villain scenario that always happens. Every Democrats take turns making the wrong vote, right? So that the blame will be spread around. So I think not committing my vote to Hakeem Jeffries right now. It's I think that's your point of leverage. You're not doing enough for us. You're not keeping us out of war. Obviously, you're not putting Medicare for all up for a vote. So I think speaking truth, not worrying about your own committee seats, not worrying about corporations attacking you, trying to kick you out of office. I'm not worried about that. I just speak the truth, and I want the truth to help us push for better policy. I think it can, because when people hear the truth, they can understand your strategy to help change things, and people will help you. People will actually help you try to change things.
Yeah. So if you're just joining us, some of you maybe just are now tuning in. A reminder that this is the first of many live streams in which I'm interviewing folks that are running for Congress who I have endorsed because they have committed to uncapping the House, but also I share their other values, and yay, uncap the House. But also, I hope that you're picking up that there's some other similarities. Wink, wink. These are times of reform. These are times of change. This is honestly, the window is not that big. I think we have this election cycle, maybe the next one, maybe the one after that. And if we don't do it right, I think it's going to be bad. Yeah. History tells us that. So with that in mind, a reminder to check out all of their platforms, their websites in the description of this video. If you live in one of these districts, 3rd District of Nebraska, 4th District of Indiana, 6th District of New Jersey, your primaries are coming up soon. Although Mark is running as an independent, both Jayden and John would like your vote. And so please check them out. Closing thoughts, Mark, closing thoughts to the audience. What do you want everybody to know before we wrap this up?
I want folks to know that I love this country. I served this country. I chose to make my home in the beautiful Nebraska Sandhills in this later stage of my life. Never thought I'd be running for Congress. I mean, but all it's doing is costing me money and adding weight because of the cortisol. So it's not for me. It's for my children and my neighbors and my friends. I'm the only veteran in the race. I got an advanced degree in agricultural law. And I don't think that people calling themselves conservative are conservative. You can't be conservative and add $4 trillion to the debt. You can't be conservative and let Russia walk all over you. And you can't be conservative and be, trying to regulate everything on a federal level when you spent the last 50 years talking about states' rights and federalism. And I chose to be an independent because I think that makes the voice, I don't like the whole artificial divide of liberal conservative. I mean, you can have positions on issues such as, I said we should go back to the Eisenhower tax system, something close to that. Some people might say that is a liberal position, but I don't think it is. I mean, it had bipartisan support under 5-star General Eisenhower. Some people, I own firearms. Everybody in Western Nebraska pretty much owns firearms. I don't think that makes me, conservative. It just makes me prudent. So I want to get past all this black and white thinking and pitting neighbor against neighbor by putting labels on people. And that's why I want to do this. And the one final thing I'm going to say, I want to introduce everybody to Solomon here. Solomon is my 140-pound Irish Wolfhound. He's probably the most famous dog in Nebraska now because he goes with me everywhere. And if you didn't get a chance to check out my imitation of Richard Nixon's checkers speech, go to my YouTube channel and check that out.
I love that. That was amazing. Thank you, Mark. Okay, Jayden,
Thank you.
your final pitch.
Yeah. Again, our primary is on May 5th, so next Tuesday. So it's coming up. We have one more week until our primary. Every day but Sunday, and I am the only true Hoosier First or America First candidate. And even though the Republicans might claim they are, I will put our country and our district first above everyone else, above corporate lobbyists or PACs or super PACs. Our campaign is very simple. We're anti-war of choice, anti-funding them. We're also for single-payer Medicare for all. I will not send a tax dollar overseas until we get that passed. It's my line in the sand issue. And I feel like if more candidates in Washington want to actually get things done, I want to help everyone else across the world as well. But if we can focus on one issue and get it passed by not sending anything overseas, that we can actually show that Congress can actually work for you how it's intended to. And also pro-union, I want union protections for workers. And if you want to form a union, I feel like you should have your job protected. Again, we are all human here, and in District 4, our incumbent has just drifted away, and I feel like the Republican running against him is just the same but younger, and they can claim they can be America first, but they truly are not. They're Israel first.
Thank you, Jayden. Okay, and John?
All right, thank you. I would describe myself as a labor, environmental, human rights activist. I was a Bernie Sanders delegate, chair of the Progressive Caucus in my town's Democratic Party, and yeah, I don't necessarily want to push myself forward like this. I have a computer science background. That was more my thing, not really a political background, but I felt like I had to do this. Being the Bernie Sanders delegate, I've done so much organizing, met so many people in our district. And that's why we have a lot of support. That's one reason we have a lot of support, because of that base from being involved with Bernie. So I do ask for your help. If actually, Lucille, if you're still on, will you take a lawn sign? That'd be great. But if you like to donate to me, donate to any of the other candidates on the stream, that'll be very helpful. Like I've had hundreds of small donations from people. It's actually mainly people in our district, which is really cool. Or one district over, just because we're so hyper local. But obviously, donations from all over the country would be very helpful for all of us. And
your vote. Go ahead.
And last thing, volunteer, phone banking. That'll be great too.
Yes, I think if people are feeling helpless right now, that's one way to not only literally help, but you're helping not only your neighbors, but you're helping yourself, because I feel it's very therapeutic to be politically active and to be around people who are inspiring. And I know that you all inspire me, and I wish you all the best with your campaigns. You're doing great work. And if you are listening to this, watching this, remember that primaries is where your vote is worth a lot more. There's not that many people that vote in primaries. Okay, especially in a midterm year. So check your local, wherever you live, whatever state it is. Check the date for your upcoming primary election. And check to see if it's open primary or closed. If it's closed, that means you have to be registered for that political party. Also, for many of you, you can vote early. You can mail-in vote still. They haven't got rid of that yet. So thank you all for being great citizens. And anything else you want to throw out there that you just thought of?
Yeah, see, in Indiana, we're an open primary. So
that's why you're running as an
the Democratic primary. But
right.
A lot of people, they claim that they are registered Republican or registered Democrat, so they can't vote in your primary. In Indiana, it's open. You can just grab the Democratic ballot, and that's where my name will be. And you're not registered one party in Indiana.
Heck yeah, Indiana. We're closed here in Kansas.
It's one good thing our state did. So.
Yeah, right. John, do you have open primaries or closed?
Well, if you're unaffiliated, you can vote in the primary, but then you get registered for that party.
Okay.
Yeah. Ours is wide open. So grab the Denver ballot, vote McCash.
All right. And Mark, you'll be campaigning till the general. So wish you the best.
Absolutely.
We'll be in touch more probably as we get closer to that date.
Well, and I just want to say to Matt, thank you for what you do also, and to everybody. I got to tell you, since so many of us felt hopeless and powerless, get out there and do something. You'll feel better. And I teach my karate students, your voice is a very powerful weapon. So get out there and use it.
Heck yeah. We'll end it there. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you guys.
Beat.
Appreciate it.